We're going to talk about something extremely curious and spooky today. I'm Robin Furman, and I come from Lincolnshire, which is an excellent county to come from. And I'm fairly well known as a parapsychologist. That is somebody who researches ghosts, out-of-the-body experiences, telepathy, near-death experiences, metal bending, flying saucers, you name it. And to get it all right, the credentials sort of organised, people can go nowadays to university and take a PhD in parapsychology. It's a very important and extremely interesting pursuit. The first thing we're looking at actually today is what really stimulated my interest. I've been asked to talk about it, so I will do. What stimulated my interest in the paranormal, as we might call it? Well, I live in Grimsby, and many years ago, in the middle of the night, suffering from a bad cold, went upstairs for a clean handkerchief, and to my complete and absolute amazement, there on the landing was the figure of a nun, standing, looking at me. Now, I mean, if you meet anybody in the middle of the night in your house who isn't supposed to be there, I mean, that's surprising for a start. But when you go upstairs and find a nun on the landing, you think, well, my goodness. And we looked at each other for a moment or two, and then she floated away and was gone. So I thought, oh, what do you say? Am I going completely mad here? If you've got any credibility at all, if you see a ghost or a phantom, an apparition, people are going to doubt, if you've seen it, are you making it up? Are you going mad? And so I can quite understand why people are very reluctant to say when they see something out of the ordinary. They're very, very reluctant to tell people about it. Anyway, I did tell people about it, and this was many years ago, and I've never seen her again, though one of my children has seen her.
I'm Andrew Furman. I saw an apparition many years ago in this lounge of a nun. I was sat at the piano when I saw her, which is over here. This is where I actually saw the apparition. I was at the piano playing away, and she appeared by the side of me, just here. At first, I wasn't startled. I just thought, oh, it's the nun from upstairs, where my father had seen her. But then the base of my spine became hot. It went up to the top, just like a thermometer going up. As it got to the top, I thought, ugh, it's a ghost. And I looked to look at her face. As I looked, there was no face. It was just swirling mist. And this alarmed me quite a lot, because I was only 10 years old. So with that, I had to jump through here to escape. And it was like running through mist, jumping through the apparition. I went straight to the other room. I said to everybody, I've seen the ghost, I've seen the ghost. And they all just laughed and just went, no, you haven't. No, you couldn't have done. But I know I did.
And that's what actually fired my interest in the paranormal. And now I live close to a place called Nun's Corner. And many years ago, there was a nunnery at Nun's Corner. It's going back to the 12th century, actually. In 1109, St Leonard's Nunnery stood at Nun's Corner, approximately where the College of Technology and Further Education is now, like Humberside University. Well, so maybe in a way it's not so surprising that I saw a nun. Was she anything to do with the nuns of those days, one might wonder? Well, actually, St Leonard's Nunnery was elevated to the noble status of a priory in 1184. Now, where the college now stands, there are sort of trees in front of it, some rather pleasant landscaping and little hills, but it's not mere landscaping, because actually there's nuns in them there hills, and I'm told that on some dark and misty nights, mysterious figures have been seen gliding across those grounds between the trees, and this has been reported to me on a number of occasions. I've not been lucky enough to see any of them for myself, but nevertheless I've been told that sightings have been observed by many reputable witnesses. So it seems that perhaps there are some nuns of those days still there. It's curious, isn't it? Well, you know, there was a newspaper headline some time ago that said, "The lights go out at Intax Mews." Well, Intax Mews still exists, but the old cottages that stood on the land of Intax Mews itself are no longer there. It's somewhere near the Wellhome Museum and Art Gallery in Grimsby. And some years ago, the Chapmans lived in Intax Mews, and it was reputed to be an extremely haunted site. They weren't interested in ghosts and hauntings and things. They never paid much attention. However, Tony Chapman's mother was lying ill with flea biters.
So they decided to bring the bed downstairs for her to sleep in the dining room, which was quite a long room. And the following morning, she used to read in bed. When we came down, she said, "You're not going to believe it," but she says, "Last night I was terrified because I saw a monk coming through the dining room from one door, walking through, past the bed, through to the other."
She told Tony in the morning, and Tony's grandmother lived with them at the time, and she was what you might call an arch skeptic about these things, and said, "I've never heard such a nonsense. It's perhaps because you're so ill." I think Tony's mother took exception to this to a degree. She said, "Look, I know what I saw, and if I tell you I saw something, I did." Anyway, nothing happened the next night. The night after that, lo and behold, she woke up again to see this dim, shadowy figure moving through the room.
Of course, my father, he turned round and says, "Well, she's just hallucinating with being poorly, you know, laying there." But you could tell by the look of my mother that she wasn't hallucinating. So anyway, we left it for a week or two, and then we heard all these noises going on upstairs. We went upstairs, there was nothing there. Then I went out on my motorbike, and my grandmother was living with us, and just before I got home, it seems that my grandmother had said to my mother, "Can't Tony play the harmonium well?" Because the harmonium was playing all this church music and everything else. And she says, "Yeah, he's getting very, very good, isn't he?" Of course, with that I came in the back gate with my motorbike, and of course the look on the faces, they went sort of white, and "What you're doing here, you should be up there playing that harmonium." So we all went up there, and the candles had been lit on the harmonium, because you could smell it. You could smell the candle wax, and there was wax running down the harmonium. Well, we didn't know if it was the monk playing with the organ or what, because in the middle of the night I'd hear it playing, I'd wake up, but as soon as I turned the light on, it would stop. Well, when in about 1962-63, we all of a sudden saw this write-up in the paper which said, for the first time in so many hundred years, the lights in Intax Farm would be closed off, and the people were leaving because they'd had all these monks going through the house in twos. So straight away we connected our monk with the two monks of where Intax Farm was, which is now Intax Mews. Possibility that there was an abbey or something in this area, and we found that all of Hainton Avenue, Wellham Road, was actually the grounds of an abbey. And it seems that possibly many hundreds of years ago, the head abbot, I believe that's what he's called, I don't know, was cast out.
In an act of very un-monk-like behaviour, had an amorous affair with a young lady nearby. She'd become pregnant. The monk himself, who was a senior member of the Abbey of Wellow, had absconded with an amount of money and was subsequently banned from the monastery and was never seen or heard of again, as far as Tony could trace. So there was a curious history to this particular monk.
I was getting married, we decided that my harmonium had to go. I mean, I loved it. It didn't bother me at all. My mother had seen the ghost, my father had. I mean, I take it was a ghost, because you don't have monks going through your house, and, you know, not uninvited like. So anyway, so what happened was, instead of taking it with me, because my wife wasn't very keen on me having this harmonium in the house, so I gave it away to a friend, little knowing that his mother and the whole family were spiritualists. Which, to them, it's a taboo thing, this sort of thing. So anyway, I gave it to them, and I saw them, must have been a few years after I'd given it to them. I said, "Oh, do you still have the harmonium?" And they says, "No."
Apparently, according to the man who bought it, the harmonium had developed a habit of playing on its own.
Put it in the back garden, chopped it up, and we burnt it. So I asked them why, and they says, "Well, the candles kept lighting. It kept, because they had candles on. I mean, it's a common thing for people to put candles on these things." And they said it started playing, and it really frightened them.
Well, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you tune in to the next part of our series.